Hello, friends. Today, we'll discuss and thoroughly analyze the first part of the 69th episode of Skibidi Toilet. We were finally shown the lower floor of the laboratory, where you could notice a huge number of strange and mentally ill toilets. Moreover, what's more interesting, we saw a determined mana plunger who clashed with her husband. Agree. It was both epic and sad at the same time. First and foremost, I must declare that this episode changes everything about our perception of the series. After all the previous 68 episodes, we saw real people only in the early episodes. To be more precise, the last time was a whopping 64 episodes ago, in the 4th episode, where we saw people in a restaurant. And now, in the 69th episode, we see them again, albeit only their bodies, and they have long been dead. However, we hadn't seen them in this form before. Throughout this time, only one person was shown to us, and that's, of course, the secret agent. Quite an interesting picture is forming. You probably already have an idea of where I'm heading with this. In short, today I'll try to explain all this madness we witnessed in the cells, and in the end, we'll discuss where the agents are headed and what they are truly seeking. As usual, like and subscribe to the channel if you want the agents to win against the toilets. Also, grab your tea and cookies because we're starting, friends. The episode begins with a scream, and we see a horrifying monster with a valve instead of an eye. This is a reference to Valve. For those unaware, Valve is the company behind the game Half-Life. Interestingly, Dafukboom has been making references to this game for quite some time. However, the most intriguing and mysterious reference was made prior to the episode's release, where they showed the very first leaked frame with the inscription, "Someone's secret is controlling us." But few know that this inscription refers to the game itself. And this phrase has a continuation that will blow your mind. But more on that a bit later. Next, we see the claws on the mana plunger's hand emerge, much like Wolverine's, and apparently, his plunger has a similar ability. We observe spikes on it, and notably, on the floor, you can notice the skeleton of a real person. Again, I'll emphasize, not an agent or Skibidi, but a regular, darn human. Interestingly, we see the same lab coat on the 40th second and another one at the 22nd second. However, the latter one is different because it's wearing a scientist's attire. Hence, most likely, these labs were created by humans themselves, and the toilets are their failed experiment that spiraled out of control, taking over this secret base. It seems Dafukboom was once an ordinary scientist who worked here at the base and managed to escape. Throughout the episode, he constantly watches over the agents and tries to help them locate and enter this base. As a former scientist, he has access to all the lab's doors and cameras, ultimately aiding the agents in exploring this facility. After the scream, we witness Black Speaker ruthlessly killing opponents with his knives, while the mana plunger simultaneously eliminates another parasite. By the way, there's a significant number of parasites we can observe here. When we rewind, we see all the agents, and there are 2 more agents than in the previous episode. Except for these lying individuals, everything seems normal. Right then, we see the frame I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Remember the one that FBM posted on their official shop 2 to 3 days ago? Pay attention, it's the same frame we see at the 26th second of the first part of the 69th episode. However, the camera there is much closer to the red cameraman, and we don't see that cameraman there. And now, we've reached the most interesting part. I finally figured out the meaning behind the phrase, "Someone's secret is controlling us," which is directly linked to the game Half-Life, referenced at the start of the episode. Now, I'll show you some footage that will surprise you greatly. Look into the game Half-Life 2. There's a moment where this phrase, "secret," is present. But there's a continuation to this phrase, specifically the word both. The most interesting part is that it continues with, "We shall no name it." Let's start with the fact that this phrase is essentially said by Red Cameraman, as we can see him right in front of us. And right in front of him is the mana plunger, saying this to him. Throughout the series, Only these two characters had recording errors when Dafuk Boom was around, and it seems the phrase "we shouldn't call its name" refers directly to the secret agents. Interestingly, it appears that although Dafuk seems kind, his name cannot be mentioned by others. What could be the reason for this? It's quite a complex question, and I haven't figured it out yet, but if any of you can understand this, please write in the comments. Now, let's shift our focus to the Skibidi toilet prison, where different types of toilets are locked up. For instance, in the first cell, we see two frightened heads shocked by Black Speaker's cruelty. In the second cell, there's a hot Skibidi toilet and a couple of lamps that affect it as yellow glow. Most likely, the TV men are experimenting here with a new ability of the Skibidi toilets, specifically the vision of Skibidi owls that won't be afraid of fire. A very intriguing idea. In the following cell, there's a toilet with a massive head, and in the very last cell, there are 3 Skibidi skulls. Apparently, these rooms were created for experiments on these Skibidi toilets, the test results of which could be used in the future to create new and cool Skibidi toilets. For example, the one with the enormous head bears a striking resemblance to the Skibidi toilet from the 50th episode. As for these skulls, they're most likely the early prototypes of the Skibidi skull from the 56th episode. Afterwards, we reach the gates, and Red Cameraman, with one hand monitoring the lab cameras on a tablet, realizes there's nothing there. Without fear, he uses a remote with his other hand to open the gates. As they open, we see a pool of blood on the right and some pipes on the left, likely used for containing important gases or similar substances. Remember, we're on the lowest floor of a colossal lab resembling a mountain, so these pipes might contain something like oxygen or a similar substance. Someone throws Carmen's broken head at us, and when the mana plunger turns around, a humanoid Skibidi with incomplete limbs emerges towards us. This is another prototype. However, it's unclear why this one is free when others are locked in cells. Judging by the blood pool, this section might be used to test new types of Skibidi toilets, where they release some captive agents for the prototype to kill. The Skibidi scientist observed and understood the pros and cons of his new creations. The head of this, Carmen, seems to indicate this. Likely, this poor soul was a captive here, released to be killed by this creature. As we see, even an electric shot from the electro gun didn't affect it. And even Black Speaker couldn't kill it, but thankfully, the mana plunger managed to finish the creature off. Again, we notice a human skeleton, reminding us that people were here. Suddenly, just when it seemed like nothing foreboded danger, the alarm goes off, and all doors where various levels of furious monsters were locked up are opened. 3 Skibidi humans and 2 large toilets are added to the mix. I'd also like to note the Skibidi who was still burning but alive, able to walk. This indicates the success of the experiment with Carmen, who timely opened the necessary gates. As we can see, more menacing figures are approaching, like this toilet with closed eyes and ears. However, Red Cameraman saves us once again, closing all gates with his magical device. Where do these monsters come from finally? We are safe. Oh, and the speakers dance. But unfortunately, as we understand, agents aren't spared easily from Michael Jackson, as he breaks through the gates and kills the poor speakers who had been entertaining us with their cool dances all this time. Like this, if you feel sorry for them and wish they could be fixed in the future. Michael Jackson emerged from those black doors where we saw a pool of blood after he broke through the gray regular doors. It became clear why they kept him behind those reinforced huge gates. Some agents managed to reach the next gates that could stop Michael Jackson. However, the twin brothers were injured and couldn't run quickly, causing them to lag far behind the main team. Meanwhile, Black Speaker, using all the agent's strength since the twins were already dead by that time and wouldn't have made it to the gates, made a very sensible decision as a professional fighter. However, Mana Plunger, being emotional at times, decided to strike Black Speaker. The latter, in turn, didn't back down. He's quite serious and understands it's not worth continuing this fight with Mana Plunger, realizing the condition of Enzoom. It's also noticeable that Red Carmen is saddened by the twins' deaths, evident from his lowered head. After this mini-fight, Mana Plunger decides, as tradition, to show the toilet's middle finger, which is interesting. By this time, besides Michael, other Skibidi CEs have also arrived. And of course, the most intriguing moment is the end of the first part, where we see the corridor again, at the end of which there's some sort of green or yellow glow. Correct me in the comments because it seems I might be colorblind. Out of the 10 agents we saw at the end of the 68th episode, only 5 agents remain. Those remaining are Red Carmen, Black Speaker, Mana Plunger, and 2 Carmens with guns. In the second part of the 69th episode, in my opinion, we might see Dafuk Boom, or even more interestingly, they might show living people. Because those skeletons weren't just lying there for no reason. It's probably a hint, and certainly, by the 70th episode, Dafuk is obligated to reveal the secret agent or at least hint at it, setting the stage for unfolding a new plan in subsequent episodes. It's not a secret for anyone that sooner or later the agents will reach the Skibidi scientist, and endlessly prolonging this chase doesn't make sense. There's no turning back. 5 very strong agents are in the heart of the laboratory, about to reach their goal. This mission must succeed, so subscribe to the channel not to miss my new breakdowns. Thank you all, friends. Goodbye for now.